I'm Reuben with Structure Tech Home Inspections, and today's topic is hazards associated with aluminum branch circuit wiring. So let me start off by saying that not all aluminum wiring is hazardous. There's a lot of aluminum wiring used in houses that's perfectly fine. The overhead wires coming into houses, the underground wires coming into houses, that's always aluminum. It's just fine. There's no problem with that. Aluminum wiring is used for 240 volt circuits in a lot of today's homes. Nothing wrong with that either. The problematic stuff was a specific alloy manufactured between about 1965 to 1972. That was the really nasty stuff. The problem with this material is that it had a much higher expansion rate than today's modern alloys, and it would end up failing at the connections. The material would expand, it would change shape, and then it would cool back down, and it wouldn't return to its original shape, and you'd end up with loose connections. So problems would happen wherever the wires began and ended. Every terminal for aluminum wiring could be a potential fire hazard. Loose connections lead to fires. The Franklin Research Institute determined that homes wired with this particular aluminum wiring were 55 times more likely to reach fire hazard conditions. So that's kind of the crux of it. That's the basis of why there's problems with this wiring. And the Consumer Product Safety Commission calls this a hazard as well. They have a lot of information on the CPSC website about this. There's a great document that they put out talking about what you can do if you have a home that's wired with aluminum wiring. Anytime I do a home inspection and I find this stuff, my advice is get an electrician out here to either put their blessing on it and say it's safe, or to make repairs. And I don't think I've personally ever been involved in a transaction where an electrician came out and just put their blessing on it and said it's all safe. Every time I'm involved in these transactions, the electrician says, you need to do something about this. We've got unsafe conditions. And I've found tons of them myself. I have found a lot of connections where we have charred wires, scorched wires, darkened wires, way more on homes wired with aluminum than with copper. So I firmly believe there is a big concern about aluminum branch circuit wiring. So how do you fix it? The Consumer Product Safety Commission lists 3 different ways of dealing with aluminum wiring. One is to redo all the connections with something called a Copalum crimp connector. Now I'm not going to go into detail about it in this video because here in Minnesota there's not a single certified electrician to do this repair. So in Minnesota that's out. In other parts of the country there may be electricians who can do this. The next item would be to use an Alumicon wire connector. It's basically a big expensive wire nut, and it's used to change from aluminum wiring to copper wiring. It's a matter of redoing every connection and creating a pigtail. It's where you disconnect the aluminum wire from the switch, the wire nut, the receptacle, whatever it's going to. You disconnect the aluminum wiring, you get a short length of copper, you connect the two inside of this Alumicon connector, this wire nut, and then you run a copper wire to your switch, outlet, what have you. And you redo that with every wire. If there's one receptacle in the wall, you redo the hot, the neutral, and the ground wire. Now, obviously you're going to start running into size issues. You're going to have a lot more wire inside of every box. You're going to have wire nuts that got to fit inside every box. So it can be a challenge for an electrician to redo an entire house that's wired with aluminum with these connectors, but it is a possibility. And the Consumer Product Safety Commission has said, this is cool, this is fine, you can do that. And then the third option they list is outright replacement, just replacing all of the existing wires. And that's the most dramatic, the most expensive, the most thorough way of dealing with it. Doesn't have to be done, but it is an option. That's the third option listed by the CPSC. So bottom line is, if you are buying a home with aluminum branch circuit wiring, get an electrician out to either put their blessing on it or make repairs. That's it. Thank you for watching.